on behalf of Sridhar Noori. Welcome you all in this webinar of Instructional Module Development System, Part 1. We are having with us Dr. Bansal and Vaishnavi. So, over to Dr. Bansal.
Thank you, Dr. Amit. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Srividya Bansal, and Vaishnavi is also here with me. We'll start with our introductions. I'm Associate Professor at Arizona State University in the Department of, in the School of Computing, Informatics and Decision Systems Engineering. I've been here with Arizona State University for the last 8 years, and today we're going to present we call it the IMODS tool. It stands for Instructional Module Development System. And this is a project that's funded by NSF. But before we get started with that, I'll let Vaishnavi also introduce herself. Go ahead, Vaishnavi.
Hi everyone, I'm Vaishnavi. I'm currently doing my master's here at Arizona State University, and I am a student under Dr. Bansal. So I'm doing this research study for which I have to evaluate this IMODS tool. So this is actually a very interesting tool which would actually help in course design for instructors. So let's hope that you guys enjoy the webinar.
Right, thank you, Vaishnavi. So at this point, we'll turn off our webcams. We wanted to introduce ourselves by showing our face, but then we'll turn it off now so that we conserve bandwidth. The plan for today is basically I'll share my screen and I'll start giving you an overview of the IMODS project. So like I said, IMODS stands for Instructional Module Development System, and this is a collaborative project between Arizona State University and the University of San Diego, and it has been funded by the National Science Foundation. And we've been working on this project for about 4 to 5 years now. And the project website is available at it's at imod.poly.asu.edu. So I'll give you an overview first, and then Vaishnavi will give you a demonstration of the tool, and then we're hoping we'll have time for some hands-on activity with the tool, wherein we'll get to try it out, and we can have a discussion. And if you have questions as you're trying it out, we will answer the questions. So you will need a computer or a laptop later on for the later part of the webinar. And we're hoping you'll enjoy it. So to get started, what is IMODS? It's basically an open source web-based tool that's accessible online. And the purpose of this tool is to guide STEM educators. And it could be STEM educators that are working individually or who are collaborating. So, and basically STEM, for those of you who are new to this acronym, it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So we are targeting educators or instructors from these fields, from the STEM fields. So the instructors could be working individually or collaboratively. The idea is to work through an outcomes-based education process for designing courses. So this tool provides a step-by-step guidance for course design. That's the basic idea, and the acronym IMODS stands for Instructional Module Development System. So what is outcomes-based education? For those of you who are new to that term, it's basically an approach where the product defines the process. So we start out with thinking about the product. What is it that our end result should be? So from the education context, it's basically defining the outcomes. what is it that the students are expected to know or understand or be able to do at the end of a course when they leave. So basically, once those outcomes are clearly defined, then apply an appropriate instructional approach so that we are able to achieve those outcomes for the students. And then the final thing is, how do we know that the students have indeed met those outcomes or have achieved those outcomes? So that's where we need some kind of an assessment criteria. So an appropriate assessment criteria needs to be applied in order to measure to the extent to which the students have been able to meet those outcomes. So basically, that's what outcomes-based education is. And the benefits of this is that it's a win-for-all solution. It's totally embedded in the education research, and it supports the how people learn framework that has been defined in the educational research. Also, we see that there is a growing adoption for outcomes-based program. So you see the accreditation bodies require an outcomes-based program with continuous improvement. So with that growing adoption of by accreditation bodies, again, this is a very good process, and there's increasing popularity for it. It also aligns very well with the other educational models that are already out there in STEM education. So that's the reason we started out building this tool to help instructors go through this outcomes-based education process. So basically, before I get to the actual tool, some of the previous models that are there that have been used traditionally for the last many years are, there is this model by Felder and Brent, wherein, again, there's students at the center, and the idea is to define learning objectives, the corresponding instruction, and the corresponding assessments. So that was in effect, it was called the effective course model by Felder and Brent. Then there is the integrated course design by Fink, where so slightly different terminology, but then you see that there's similarities. There's learning goals are defined, and the teaching and learning activities are defined, and then there's corresponding feedback and assessment. And then there's the backward design by Wiggins and Mateen. So this is the one that we drew inspiration from. So here as well, you see that the design is backward. So we start with the results, identify desired results, and then determine what an acceptable evidence for it is to determine if those were indeed results, and then plan for the learning experiences and instruction. So it's backward design, because we're not starting with planning the instruction. We're starting with identifying the results and then finally get to planning the instruction. And then there's the CAP model by Strebler, Smith, and Shavela. So CAP is basically stands for Content, Assessment, and Pedagogy. So again, there's part of it is backward design. So they also use backward design, but they basically place it a little differently in the form of a process diagram. So we drew inspiration from all of these previous models and came up with our own model called the PC Cube model. And this PC Cube model, using this, we basically are able to describe a learning objective for the course. So there could be multiple learning objectives, but each of them are defined in terms of this PC Cube model. So we published this work at an ASW conference in 2012. So this is a theoretical model, and then we use this to translate it into software. So basically, the idea.
Dr. Bansal, sorry to interrupt you, but we are getting a feedback from participants that they are not getting change in slides, whatever you are changing.
Oh.
Will you please reshare your screen?
Yes. Vaishnavi, are you able to see the...
No, I'm not able to see any change.
Oh, you're not able to see the changes too? Okay.
Reshare it.
Yeah, I stopped and reshared. Do you see the PC?
Run your slide. Run your slide. Put it in presentation mode.
It is in presentation mode. Let me stop sharing, and I'm going to share my entire desktop. Maybe that will help. Okay. Do you see anything now?
We see the slide, but just can you try changing it once?
Which slide do you see?
We see the first title slide.
Oh, no, I'm on slide number 4. Do you still see the title slide, Vaishnavi?
No,
No, it has changed.
It has changed?
Slide number 3. It is slide number 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. Then let me go to slideshow mode. Do you still see slide number 3?
We are not getting presentation mode. We are getting normal view only.
Oh. Okay, I think I'm going to just show my main screen. Let's see if this is better. Do you see previous models now?
Yeah.
Yes, now we are getting.
And are you able to see?
Yeah, the
Okay.
changes. Yes.
Okay, that's good. So then I'm going to go back and quickly just show what I had. So this, I'm sorry for that. So I didn't realize that you were not able to see the changes in the slides. So I started with what is IMODS and had the definition there. And I will figure out a way to share these slides. So this is where I discussed about what was IMODS. Then we spoke about what is outcomes-based education. So it's basically defining outcomes, then applying the instructional approach, and then applying an assessment criteria to it. Then I spoke about the previous models that exist. So that's the Felder and Brent and the backward design and the CAP model. And then finally I came to and started talking about PC Cube model. So are all of you able to see the PC Cube model slide now? Vaishnavi, is that what you see?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So sorry about that, but okay, that's good. So I can continue from here. So what I was saying is in the PC Cube model, which is our theoretical model, the idea is that a learning objective must have 4 parts to it. It must have a performance defined, which is basically what is it that the students should actually be able to do at the end of the course. Then for each learning objective, there is a corresponding content. And then there is a corresponding condition, the conditions under which the learning happens. And then there is a criteria, which is basically the assessment criteria based on which we're going to actually know that they have indeed, they are indeed able to perform those actions. So the learning objective is divided into these 4 parts. Also a course typically, so like you saw in this previous models, a course typically has a CAP. The CAP model said 3 things: content, assessment, and pedagogy. Those are the 3 important components. So what we did with our theoretical model is to tie a learning objective very tightly with these 3 things, with the CAP, content, assessment, and pedagogy, and with learning objective being at the center. So our hypothesis is that all of these 3 things, the content, assessment, and pedagogy, must be tightly aligned with learning objective, and this PC Cube model allows for that. So basically the performance part of the learning objective then kind of directs what the assessment, how the assessments should be designed, and how the pedagogy or the instructional approach should be defined. So those two things depend on the performance. What is it that the student should be able to do? Similarly, the content topics that are being taught and the knowledge dimension that they fall under, those so that is basically again determines what the instructional approach should be. So the topic that's being taught, is it a conceptual topic, or is it a factual topic, or is it a metacognitive topic? Based on that, corresponding instructional approach or pedagogy should be adopted. The conditions under which the learning should happen. So again, the content and the assessments both rely on that. And then we have the criteria. So the criteria basically then defines. So depending on how we're going to measure the outcomes, based on that, corresponding assessment techniques need to be chosen. So that's the kind of the gist of this PC Cube model that the tool is built on top of. So basically, now that we have a theoretical model, our idea is how do we translate this literature on outcomes-based education and this model that we have into a software tool, so that instructors can easily design courses using this model. So that's where the IMODS system comes into picture. So basically, our goals with this tool is that it should provide step-by-step guidance for this outcomes based course design process. It also provides a repository of current best pedagogical and assessment practices. So it holds a repository of about 50 different assessment techniques and about 50 different instructional techniques, and our plan is to grow that repository as we go. And all of these techniques are basically techniques that are suitable for STEM fields, and more specifically actually for engineering fields, because we decided to focus on engineering first. It also generates necessary documentation. It also generates documentation for course design, things like a syllabus, an instruction plan, an assessment plan. So it generates those the tool generates those documents for you. So Vaishnavi, are you able to see the IMOD system slide number 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the idea also is that we should provide help to the user as and when the user needs it. So building software is one thing, but then having a user base is another thing. The tools, sometimes the tools are hard to use, then it becomes pretty much useless. So we used a user-centered design approach to come up with this tool, and our goal was to provide as much help to the user as possible as they're going through the process, without having to go through a huge learning curve to start using the tool. And then it also provides feedback on the fidelity of the course design. So it provides feedback on what are some of the missing components. Are appropriate assessment techniques have been chosen? Have appropriate instructional techniques been chosen? Are there enough number of learning objectives? Are the levels of learning appropriately defined in the learning objective? So it's able to also provide some feedback on these missing components and the fidelity of the entire course design. So I have some screenshots here, but I won't go over this in detail because Vaishnavi will actually show you the tool itself. And I think that will be more useful. But to give you a sense, so I said it is a web-based tool, so you're able to log into it. And once you log in, you're able to look at the courses that were developed by the particular user who logged in. The design, we used a tab-based design, so there's different components of the course. So you see there's 5 tabs. The first one being the overview, followed by so what you see over here on this screen is the overview, the basic information about the course, and Vaishnavi will provide more details. Then the second tab is where the user is able to define learning objectives and add them to their design. The next tab, the third tab, then is for content, to be able to add content topics into the design, and that's where the instructor has to specifically provide information about the knowledge dimensions and such. And again, like I said, Vaishnavi will go over those details. And then one of the important things, so I said we also provide a repository of assessments and pedagogical techniques. So that's what the fourth and fifth tabs are for. They provide that repository, and then you can pick a technique and connect it to a specific learning objective. So that's kind of the overall design. I will stop at that for today for this webinar, and then we'll jump into the demonstration and the hands-on activity. And then in the follow-on session next week, I'll provide you some more details about what happens behind the scenes and how the linking is happening and how the alignment is checked, the alignment between learning objectives and assessments and learning objectives and pedagogy. So I'll talk about that in the follow-on webinar. So Vaishnavi, at this point, I will turn the presenter mode to you.
Okay.
Give me 1 minute here while I do that. Okay, so you should have it now.
Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
And are you able to see the changes? I just came into the login screen.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, I'm just going to demo how the tool is going to work. So this is the project website. We'll be sharing the link with you very soon so that you guys can just explore what the tool has to offer. So this is how the home page of the tool looks like. So there are 4 tabs over here. One is the home, one is my IMODS, user manual, and login. So the user manual is actually a PDF that is designed to give you more background knowledge about how this tool was designed and how it works. You can have a look at it if you are interested. And my IMODS is the tab that we're focused on right now, because that is the tab that will lead us to a page that lists all the IMODS that you already have. But since I have not logged in, it is asking for me to log in. So let me just do that. So now you can see that there is a course that has already been designed by default. So if I click on it, it leads me to the detail page of that particular course. So in the course overview, there are different sub tabs, as you can see. The first one is the course details. So you just basically have to fill out the basic information regarding the course. What is the title? What is the course number? If there is a specific URL that is associated with the course, then you can put that in over here, and which classroom location and the semester. This is just the course details, and the schedule is just for specifying what times the class will take place and for how much duration. So here, for example, you can see it's from 12th March 2018 to 12th March 2019, and it is on specific times. So it's from 6 to 7:15 in the evening, and it repeats. So you can choose how frequently the class takes place, whether it's daily, whether it's just on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, however you want to specify it. And over here we can see the course description. There is a text box that you can fill with what you want a basic introduction for the course to be. And These are all further details regarding which area it is and what is the targeted audience, whether it's a lower division, upper division, undergrad or grad. And you can choose the number of credit hours and the number of seats that are available for the particular course. So here you can see there's something called time ratio. So it's basically for you to give the students an idea based on how much time in class they have to spend versus how much time they have to spend out of class. So if you spend 1 hour in class, you have to spend 3 hours extra outside of class. So that is what this time ratio explains. And here you can see the grading policies and attendance and what are the penalties if someone is late or someone is missing a class. So you can define all those basic criteria over here. What professional conduct are you expecting? What are the consequences if somebody is caught cheating or stuff like that? About the missed exams and makeup exams and what happens if somebody misses an assignment. And then in the end, there is a section for instructors. So what you can just add who the instructor is, their contact information, when they have office hours, and what is their role. So there are different options to choose from and what is their office location. You can also add if a course has a teaching assistant, you can add their information as well. As you can see, we have that option as well, whether it's a teaching assistant, course assistant, or a grader. So this is the first tab. And moving on to the next one. Excuse me. So here we define the learning objectives. So this is basically the most important part of designing an IMOD, because this is where you decide what exactly you want the students to learn from the course. So again, here as well, you can see there are 4 subtabs called as performance, content, condition, and criteria. This is based on the PC-cube model that Professor Bansal just explained. So basically, you just have to make a number of selections, and based on all 4 tabs and what choices you have made, learning objective is defined. So let's look at the first example. So this course has around 6 learning objectives. So basically, we can expect at least 3 or 4 learning objectives for a particular course. So the first step here is to define what particular learning domain the course belongs to. So whether it's a cognitive learning domain, whether it's affective or psychomotor. So cognitive, you can basically say something that involves logical thinking, and affective will be psychological or emotional level of learning domain, and psychomotor is basically based on physical activity. Domain category, but then let's just say that what you have chosen is cognitive, and based on that selection, this drop down will be populated. So if your selection is something else, you will see some other domain category here. So as we have chosen cognitive, here we can see the domain category. This is the level at which a particular course has to be learned. So that's whether you just want people to memorize facts, whether you want them to actually understand it, and whether you want them to apply these particular concepts somewhere, analyze, evaluate, and create. Create is the highest level, and remember is the lowest level. And then just to make the construction of the learning objective easier, here you choose whether, so based on this selection, you get a word category. So it's cognitive, it's apply, and then you have to choose whether the outcome is actually for them to execute something or for them to implement something. and based on that selection, you choose a particular action word from the given list. Once you have done that, you can go to the content section and then you can add topics. So if you click on add topic, here you can define uh, things, and you can give a knowledge dimension to it, whether it's a conceptual topic or whether it's a factual topic, it's a procedural topic or it's a metacognitive topic. And then you can also decide what priority that particular topic has, whether it's a critical topic or it's very important or if it's good to know. And you can also have any resources that you want to add over here. So in this way, you can define all the topics that you want, and you can associate. So there are checkboxes over here, and if you click on those checkboxes, it means that those topics are getting associated with this particular learning objective that's on the left side, which has been selected. So uh, you select the topics that are most suitable for that learning objective, and then you move on to the condition. So this is basically just to give the learning objective a bit more of a structure. So you can write your own custom condition, or you can go to generic, whether the students have to be able to do something given a problem, or whether the student are expected to learn or implement something at the end of the course. So those are the sort of the conditions that you will have to choose based on the outcome that you desire. And then in the criteria you can decide accuracy, quality, quantity, and speed. So this is so you can look at this learning objective. This says that given a problem specification, apply iteration, constructing algorithms, constructing formal code, selection sequence, and problem solving with 85% accuracy. So this basically defines the criteria that the student need to have. There are 4 particular criteria that have been defined. It's accuracy, quality, quantity, and speed. So this is the most important part of defining a course, of designing a course. So once you have your learning objectives sorted, you basically have to just add any additional content that you want to add over here. And then in the end, there's this very useful pie chart that will show you a ratio of all the topics that you have, and it shows the number of topics that come under each category. So there are 15 critical, 4 good to know, and 9 very important topics for this particular course. So the next tab will be assessment. So uh, uh, given any course, obviously we always have to assess how good the student is in that particular course. So here, based on all your selections that you have done in the learning objectives, that is which domain it belongs to, what is the category, and what is the action word. So from the database, we pull the techniques that are most suitable for those particular selections. So you get ideal matches, which means that all of your criterion has been matched. So here you can see there's a capstone project. There is something final exam, final project, and goal ranking and matching and midterm test and internship and so on. So if you want to know more details about it, you can just click on it and it will show you all the things that that you need to know about that particular activity. So these are the ideal matches. Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't find the cancel button. Okay, and you can also, if you want some other techniques that are not listed here, you can always look in the extended matches section, uh, and you can always create your own techniques as well. So these are for assessments, and similarly, you can find for pedagogy as well. So you have ideal matches, you have extended matches, and again you have the techniques. And these are different for different learning objectives. So on the left side, you can see the yellow one is marked is somewhat gray in color. So these things are associated with that learning objective. So if you click on some other learning objective, this page will change because this new learning objective might have some other criteria. It might belong to some other learning domain, and based on that, this selection that you are given changes. And you also get a final instructional plan that you have selected. This was the documentation that the professor was talking about. Uh, and also this is a new feature, and this is a schedule tab. So basically for each of these learning objectives, you can just plan out when you want to have a particular activity, whether it's a learning technique or if it's a teaching methodology. You can just use the buttons over here and just define whatever activities you want to define for a particular class. So these are the tabs, and here on the right side there is a video associated with each tab which will help you to just get an overview about that particular tab, and it might somewhat guide you how to use it. So there is also a user manual, as I already specified, that will give you a more in-depth idea about what this web tool consists of. Yes, this is the tool, the whole tool in general.
You might want to show the syllabus generation.
Okay, yeah. So once you have defined all of this, you have defined the objectives and the content, assessment, and pedagogy, a syllabus is generated. So you can see it's basically the whole summary of what you have chosen over the course of designing the particular class. And also there are certain sections that you can share with the students and certain sections that you do not want to share. You can control that as well. So this is an overview about the different tabs and features that the tool offers. So now I'll just share one link with you that is to a Google form. So you can just click on that link and view the form.
So basically, to give you an intro to what we want to do next, so we want to give you the opportunity to try it out. It's available online, and I think Vaishnavi is going to post the URL to Google form. Let me tell you a little bit about the Google form. Do you want to project it on your screen and show it?
Yeah.
So what we want to do here is a study on how instructors use it and what kind of feedback they provide to us. It's totally up to you whether you want to participate in it or not. If you don't want to participate, that's absolutely fine. It's voluntary participation. You can withdraw at any time, and that's what this first consent form talks about. If you're wondering what is the benefit to you, well, there may not be any direct benefit, but the idea or the hope is that if you try out the tool and if you like it, then you can continue to use it for your course design in your classes. So really that would be the benefit. The benefit for us is you can give us feedback on what you think and what else you would like to see in it, or how the user experience was, and then we can further work on it and try and make it better. In terms of any risks, it's really you're using your computer to do it, so it's pretty much whatever it's usage of the computer basically. So like I said, you can stop participating in it at any point of time. Regarding anonymity, I want to assure you that confidentiality will be maintained. Really the only key personal information that you'll be entering is your email address to create the account and to keep track of your responses. So we will be internally we will replace those email addresses with a unique identifier, and that's what we will use in all of our data analysis. So we will not be using your email addresses anywhere or showing it in any public reports or publications or presentations. So, and then we have IRB approval for this study, and information about that is also posted here. So that's a gist of what is in that long consent form, just in case you're concerned. At any point, you can feel free to contact me at my email address, srividya.bansal@asu.edu. So basically, I think that this should take about 5 minutes, right, Vaishnavi? So the first step is to go through this consent form, and if you agree on it, then you click yes, put in your email address, you click on yes, and then there is a pre-test. Now the pre-test is about outcomes-based education. There's about 10 questions. It's not a real test. I mean, it's not a test. You don't have to worry if you don't know the answer to something. Just say you don't know. It's no problem at all. We will again do a post-test in the second webinar, at the end of the second webinar, to see if there was improvement in your knowledge of outcomes-based education. Again, like I said, you don't have to be concerned. You answer whatever you know. If you don't know, it's just fine. And then finally, there's a few demographic questions that we'll be asking, and that's again for our data analysis purposes. So that's what these forms are. You can get started with it. Vaishnavi will post the URL in the. She will broadcast the URL through the chat window, so you should receive it. As you're doing it, if you have any questions, please feel free to post through the questions panel, and we will answer them as we go. So let's spend about 5 minutes on this, and then we'll again get back and talk about next steps after that. Please let us know if you're not able to see the URL to the Google form. Also, we have started receiving questions, so we'll wait for a few minutes while everyone's working on this, and then we'll start answering some of those questions. Like I said earlier, please feel free to post if you're having post a question if you're having any issues with accessing the form, or if you're not sure of something in the form. I also forgot to mention that we do plan to, in order to incentivize participation, we plan to pick about 5 to 8 top participants at the end of the 2 sessions who've successfully participated in all parts of these webinars, and provide with Amazon e-gift cards, $5 to $10 e-gift cards. So we do plan to do that.